You mentioned the word practical in the word Patempa, and to me, when it's applied to the arts, music specifically, I get the image, the idea of daily use, hands-on, constant use, as opposed to it being an idea of yours that's exotic, that you know, something interesting that they studied and then they can put away on the shelf for some
Like in the
far
back of
away.
the mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get it's a real, it sounds as if it would be something essential
Yes.
to
Thank
a
you. Yeah.
musician.
Yeah, I think last week I came up with this sentence of understanding on your feet, basically. So you know, it's from the feet and up. So
Yes.
the movement kind of, the body explains it to your brain,
Yes.
rather than, you know, the reversed approach where you start with the intellectual part first and you layer the solfege or ear training, you know, both melodically, harmonically, and rhythmically, and then you try to make it practical. So, and I'm not against that. This one approach. What I'm trying to do is to fill that in with a different approach.
Yes.
And actually, that's not my vision. That's what you find all around the world, except in the West, where, you know, so it's kind of like the West and the rest kind of.
The West, yes.
And some people refer to the West as the mechanical mind. So everything is constructed through isolated parts, elements, and then you try to make a whole.
Yes.
And I think the rest of the world, whereas I'm now talking about musical traditions where dance, rhythm, and movement are always combined, whether it's African or Chinese, wherever you look, you'll find this. And I think originally also in Europe, in a way, right? I mean...
Yeah, well actually, the humanity-wise, the earlier texts that were found in caves showed that there was one word for movement and listening.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know in the sub-Saharan countries, there's not one word for rhythm or music. It's just one word is dance. That's it, and then it's always integrated. So so that means how much of a unity it is. And
we all had that vocabulary. Yes. Yeah.
And somehow I try to bring that back. So because in the musical education, especially, the dance is separated. So me being a accompanist for dance, and then also being a teacher and then a musician in musical education, I found that they're really separate. And so somehow it felt natural to tell dancers to not only, you know, play a cowbell pattern, but also to move.
Yes.
And then it took me 10 years before I felt more at ease about, you know, telling it to musical students, because I would think they would find it silly.
It's
and
true.
it is silly.
Well, the fact, when you know, students, the fact that they're studying, they're in an institution, that means they're, I call it left braining. It's more intellectual, as you said, from the head down.
Yes.
I, as a teacher, am also trying to find a way to get the singers to move more, to react to the rhythm, because when you're reacting to it, you actually can also perform it better. Yeah. Indeed.
So one of the things that none of this was you know, I had no thought about what I was going to do. I was just doing for many years.
Yeah.
And it was never with a reason. It was more like because it gave me a lot of fun. You know?
Yeah, you were in the flow.
Yeah, I was kind of in the flow.
That's the best thing.
And you know, then I came across all kinds of like things like, okay, so first was dancer, so I added movement, and then I started working with you know, having people make shakers. So I remember one of the workshops that I taught where I had 15 people. I didn't have, you know, instruments for 15 people, so I made 30 shakers.
Oh.
And that has stayed. So that became like a practical thing, and also because it's no budget basically. Everybody can make it, you know, use corn, or and then later, much later actually, I started working with you know, cans like this, which in this case was cat food, and you normally would throw it away, and this time we put it in the dishwasher, I should say, and then take it out and go like, wow, another instrument, and then have chopstick, and then play like,
oh my goodness,
or you know,
wow.
And so that's the other practical side, and then once you dive into that, you feel how that correlates to all around the world where there was lack of instruments. Instruments then came to the surface because they did not have, right?
Yes.
But the urge was so big, right?
Yes.
So if you just South America alone is just one big pile of innovation.
Yeah,
you know.
the cajon was just a cardboard box,
Exactly.
and then it became a wooden box.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
when Pablo Lucia was in Peru, and Ruben Dantes received the
Yes,
cajon
Ruben Dantes, yeah.
from the Peruvian percussionist whose name I should remember, and then brought it to Spain. Now
Yes.
everybody thinks it's a Spanish instrument, but basically, it changed the world basically.
It did, it did.
But it only
It's
means
used in
box.
all genres. It's used in all genres.
Right.
You know, when the R&B artists want to do a unplugged concert,
Right.
instead of a drummer, they have someone playing the cajon.
That's right. So
Yeah.
it's worldwide. Now.
Yeah, it really
But
is.
originally it started in the harbors of Lima, where the workers would, play on crates and barrels, basically,
Yeah,
because
wow.
they didn't have the instruments. And of course, these were descendants of the slaves, right? So they would, and the same happened in Havana also. So they, and so it's that kind of thing that totally inspires me also as an instrument developer.
Yes.
The lack of, and then from that comes creativity. So
Yes.
I'm totally for that, not having rather than having, because that kind of like fulfills you and there's no desire left, right? So when the desire is there, like I want something but I don't have it,
Yeah.
you will find the opportunity in instruments that are not, this is not made for being an instrument,
No, no.
but they made it such that we can play guiro or something, right? So
Genius. Really great.
anyway,
And so the students who are sort of intellectually developing themselves in the, what's the typical reaction, or what do they go through phases of first not accepting and then maybe, how does that
yeah,
how does
it
work?
differs. It depends. Some people are really like, they really respond enthusiastically, and there's some who are like, yeah, there's cowbells in the, I see cowbells there. Why are we playing this can? And so, but what I'm trying to tell them is, look, there's no budget involved,
Yeah.
and then you can practice at home, because this was one of the problems I had in the past, is that I would distribute the normal instruments, let's say, and they said, well, we don't have it at home, but now there's no
excuse.
no excuse.
No excuse. Yeah.
And they bring it, and it's so nice because they go sit in the hall, they start practicing with their cans and stuff, like
Yeah.
just before the class, of course.
Yeah.
Never way before, but just before. And at least, okay, the important thing is that these are practical instruments that then it can kind of like represent the more theoretical things that are from the West. So it being, what is pulse, what is timeline, what is subdivision, where's the melody relating to all these parts.
Yes.
And so more and more I got into this, what if we could, feel all these levels inside the body, and then see how that correlates to the ensemble around you,
Yes.
right? Or
Yeah.
how that, so if you sing a bass line, so there's one part in the Cuban thing that I do where you're which is a cachao bass line, one of the originators of the mambo in Cuba.
Yes.
And so if you know where the clave is and you know where the bass is, that if you're a conga player and you feel you know better what goes on in the ensemble, your playing will be better.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
And so it's that kind of thing where in the West you're more coming from an isolated part, right?
Yes.
So you do your lyrics,
Yes.
and then okay, the band plays because I count in and it works, right?
Well, I have to tell you, the first thing I tell a singer who comes to my class who has a problem with timing, I tell her, Ella Fitzgerald, her heart's most fondest desire when she was maybe 15 or 16 was to be a dancer. There was nothing about it. She wanted to be a dancer. And it turned out through her whole career, she still was a dancer because every note that came out of her mouth danced.
Totally.
And it was formed from a dancer's body.
Yes.
Yes.
It's interesting. Recently I found on YouTube a little video of Steve Gadd, who was an amazing drummer, of course.
Yes.
And he was like, I think around his 10 year, he was about 10 years old. And first he played drums, jazz style, and then somebody else started playing drums, and he started tapping like crazy.
There you go. There you go.
And it makes so much sense,
Yeah.
because if I hear him play, it's so it's so danceable, isn't it? It's so
Yeah.
much groove there.
Yeah.
So I think that physicality and
It's
the
necessary.
instrumentation.
Yeah.
If that is lacking, then actually you're learning the tools, but you're not particularly filling it in. And I think, okay, that's another thing that I really, this work really tells me. It's not something I thought of before. Is how groove and feel, and in Brazil would be ginga. You know, all these specific terms are not a musical term. They really come from the dancing and the feeling of the body.
Yes, yes.
So by starting there, it kind of like your way in is way different.
Yes.
Than if you come from more like a mind thing and you try to make it groove.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well, you know, the scientists have now, now it's been 5 years since I read this. The scientists have confirmed that we listen to music not just with our ears, but with the surface of our skin and our bones. Surface of our skin and our bones can even detect tone, not just rhythm, but tone. And so when you, that's why I think it's brilliant, Patempa, because it's necessary for musicians and, well, everyone, singers I include as musicians, to their way of absorbing, processing, and performing music should engage the body more, because the body actually is one big ear.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and we have this sensory system that seems
We're
to
not
be
using it enough.
is shut off.
So,
off,
yeah.
right? Yeah.